Well, Jack, thank you so much for being here at The Good Return. I know you for
Appreciate
like 12 years and such a blessing to
Wonderful.
see you and play squash.
It's an honor to be with you.
Jack, we're going to start with future advice for next generation leaders. You teach at Stanford. I took your Sparks workshop in 2014. What tangible advice do you have for the next generation of entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley? What should they aspire to be? Soft skills, hard skills, human values?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the most important things for people to appreciate about entrepreneurship is that it's different for every person. Everybody's journey is going to be different. And it's important to first understand who you are as a person, to understand why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What mission do you have personally in your life? And therefore, what mission should you have for your company? What kind of company do you want to build because of who you are? Get in touch with what really motivates you and what drives you. And if you do that, you'll wind up with doing a better company that's more suitable to you and being more resilient, because being an entrepreneur is very hard and sometimes very lonely. And if you're pursuing something that's really, truly you, and you're in touch with what your center of gravity is, you'll be able to endure those difficult times.
Having that tenacity is key. And I remember learning from your classes. Jack, can you share more about, you mentioned doing something that's really you. How do you find that purpose? And perhaps could you share a brief background of your career and how you ended up being in venture capital, angel investing, and a Stanford lecturer?
Yeah, so first, generally, your question, I do think that the first thing that helps you figure out who you are and what drives you is by realizing that you should even do that. I think too many people are so caught up by the center of gravity that is their church group or their country's sense of sensibilities, or their families or their parents, or what they're supposed to be theoretically on paper, that they don't even think about, oh, wait a minute, what is the right thing for me to do as a person? So the first is just to know that you should be doing it. And then a way that I help people think about what your friends look to you for. What do people rely on you for? They can be very hard, tangible things like planning what you're going to do that evening, or they can be soft skills like helping people get through difficult moments. Understanding what those are and then figuring out how you might take those things and apply them to a career, to entrepreneurship, to something like that is really important. It's an important thing to help you with your window into who you are as yourself. I'll go into more of my journey in a second, but Enoch, I think you potentially had something you wanted to ask.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to ask. Yes. We would love to just ask about your journey of finding your purpose and some of the tangible advice that you would have for current students or people going into the workforce now in 2026 to find that purpose to pursue and that passion that they can really center their work around.
Yeah, and I would say that it took me many decades to really be at peace with who I am and what I should be looking for. And what I try to teach students in my course and in my workshops is to try to help them be more in touch with that sooner in their lives than I was. Now, I think I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher and a mentor to a certain extent. So I really did understand that. But I kind of did not. Sorry?
Is that something that you feel like you've always had since you were a kid?
Yeah,
or
always had that. Like? I mean, since I got home from kindergarten and would teach my then 3-year-old brother how to read, because I learned that, and then I would teach him whatever I learned that day in kindergarten. And then when I took piano lessons, I would then teach him how to play the piano. And so I was constantly teaching, and then I was constantly learning from teaching others. And in school, I was always tutoring and helping and doing that kind of stuff. But then when I graduated from university, I went to work at McKinsey & Company.
Consulting, yeah.
And then I went to business school, and I went back to McKinsey, and I worked in in big companies, and then I was a startup person, and I worked in 4 entrepreneurial companies. And so in a certain sense, I was going through what the natural next step would be theoretically in my career projection, except for after my first 2 years at McKinsey & Company out of university, I went and I taught high school for a year before going to business school. And that was, I kind of knew I wanted to be a teacher by the time I was 50, but here was my chance to sample what it would be like to be a teacher way earlier in my life. Again, in retrospect, maybe if I had more fortitude, if I had more appreciation for who I was as a person, I might have pursued an educational career much sooner. Instead, I went through all these other things, but as soon as I started doing entrepreneurship out here, like 23 years ago, I started teaching entrepreneurship. So I have been teaching entrepreneurship first at the Haas School at Berkeley, at Cal Berkeley, and then at Stanford.
Go Cards.
It shows where his allegiance is, doesn't it? He speaks Stanford with an accent, but he's a native Bears speaker. That's right. That's right. I really, I started to do more and more teaching, and then eventually, about at the age of 50, I would say 52, is when I formally created a career that was all about teaching and mentorship and advising and being really the kind of person that I am.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, I have a very relevant follow-up, which is that there are a lot of people who are in corporate work, and they might have this external passion. Oh, I wish I would be this. If I didn't have to worry about money, then I would be doing X, something else. And there are a lot of, when I just have conversations with a lot of friends, frankly, this is something I hear a lot. And it is tough for a lot of people because, of course, they have to support their family, the finances, and things of that nature, of course, and that's probably one of the biggest blocks for a lot of people. So I just want to ask you, what are some of the steps that these people, maybe in the corporate workspace, but they will really want to be entrepreneurial, but they have a hard time starting because they're in the cycle of corporate work. What types of advice would you have for those people? What can they get started with?
So I guess one piece of advice is that you should try to seek out the things that you understand, that you enjoy doing as a person. Focus on what you love to do, what you get satisfaction out of, what you're good at, but also what you derive a lot of joy from. Yeah. And you focus on that and try to find outlets for that in your job. If you love mentorship, be a mentor to the more junior people at the firm, at the company. You'll get fulfillment out of that, and you'll start getting the better folks to want to work with you while you're doing that. Yeah. If you like teaching, when I was at McKinsey, I helped run the training programs at McKinsey. No surprise, right? So to some extent, you can actually, as a McKinsey consultant, even as a junior McKinsey consultant, being a mentor is the wrong word, but helping the client team members understand what McKinsey is about and how to go through the McKinsey process. You can find outlets that way. Embrace those outlets. Even if it's not the exact thing that everybody in that firm or that company should be doing, do the things that you appreciate. And then some advice that was given to me when I was struggling with this dichotomy between being a corporate guy and being a business guy and being a teacher, was if you can try to do the things that you really love to do and that you're driven to do, if you can do that half a day a week and set that aside, that can get you through a whole bunch of other stuff. The story was about a CEO who's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but at heart he was a woodworker. He loved to work with his hands. And he built a wood shop in the corporate headquarters in Manhattan, and he would go down there for a few hours one day a week, and that would help keep him going. To some extent, for me, teaching at the Haas School one night a week at that time was my outlet that way. For other people, it could be that they're setting that time aside to investigate entrepreneurial opportunities and to try to figure out what the right thing is for them would be an equivalent of that. The other is just that it's surprising how we think we need this much money to live, but you probably can do with less if you are investing in things that are longer term, that are investing in those things that will help you discover your passion, or I should say, nurture that passion. And I have a few thoughts on passion in a couple of seconds that I'll share with you.
And Jack, you mentioned a lot your love for teaching and mentoring. What is it about teaching that brings you the most joy?
I think I love helping unlock things for other people. I love the empathy of being able to put myself in the shoes of, if I'm mentoring a CEO, what's the best, how can I help that person figure out what the best journey is for them in their situation? And with a group of students in a class, trying to help them develop their own framework for how they should lead or how they should run their lives. My course, Principled Entrepreneurial Decisions, Principled Entrepreneurial Leadership, is about helping students develop their own set of values and principles that they would bring with them to their lives and careers. And so a lot of it is about helping them with that discovery process. I don't have the answers. I'm not trying to tell them what they should do. I'm trying to ask the right questions and help them go through a journey that helps them figure out what they should do for themselves.
Yeah, and for the maybe students and corporate workers out there who might be saying, well, actually, I have no clue what that passion is for me. I just feel like I'm a cog on a wheel. Sure. For those people, do you feel that the best first course of action is to just try different things? Maybe just take time to contemplate and pray. What do you think? Yeah. What advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, so I do think that it makes a lot of sense for you to try different things. I think that's great. But different things doesn't have to mean different professions, doesn't have to mean different industries. It can be more subtle than that. It can be even within a company, trying different aspects of things going on in that company. I do recommend, I like this balance. Some people are all about just experience lots of things and something will figure it out. Yep. Some people are like, study it to death and reverse engineer and determine that you should, be a forest ranger and analyze that. And I have a balance. I do think on balance, it makes more sense to have as many experiences as possible. But I do think that some investigation, some inner introspection is worthwhile to help, if nothing else, to help you cut out some things that are just obvious no-go zones. And so there are, with entrepreneurship specifically, there's so many different vectors of types of entrepreneurship, and this goes back to that first workshop that you attended a dozen years ago. How much technology do you want to have as part of your company? What kind of technology? What role do you want to play within that? What kinds of roles do you enjoy, and why do you enjoy them? Do you want to be a solo founder? Do you want to have a team? What industry might you want to be? Where might you want to locate the company? There's so many different vectors of what entrepreneurship can mean, that I think that it is important, before you say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to go reverse engineer what's the theoretical best company that I should start, and then you wind up trying to sell workman's compensation insurance to restaurants. And it's like, do any of you really like insurance? No. Have you ever worked on insurance? Do you know what it's like to sell insurance? You want to sell to restaurants? It's like, no, but it was a good idea. Well, do some investigation first. What do you enjoy doing, and what are you good at? Because you're not going to develop a passion for something unless you both enjoy it and you're good at it. People think of passion as being something that everyone is born with, this thing, and they're just supposed to try to figure that out. And some people are lucky enough to figure it out at age 2, and some people, I believe, and what rings true to me, is that passion is developed through hard work and cognitive strain over a period of time. That if you find something that you are generally pretty good at, and you work at building up a rare and valuable skill, passion ensues. Over time, you develop a passion for doing that, for doing that thing that you are good at, that you enjoy. And as an entrepreneur, you have an incredible ability, as a leader of a company, you have an incredible ability to create that role just as what you want it to be. If you're the CEO of a startup company and it's your company, if you don't like doing growth hacking, bring someone on to do the growth hacking.
Yeah.
Right?
Outsource.
If you love selling, you can be the lead salesperson for a while, and then you can always be involved in sales. Whatever it is that you enjoy, and be aware of that and embrace it. So.
How do you know when to spread out to maybe after a corporate work time pursue those passions versus going all in? When do you know that timing to go all in or to pursue kind of on the side, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I will say though is a mentor of mine always talks about you want to be somewhere where you are getting 5 years of experience in 2 years, not the opposite, right? Right. So if you're wherever you are, if you feel like you're drinking from a fire hose and you're getting a lot more experience than the time you're putting in, then it's just worth staying anyway. So that's great. When that slows, that's the time to look for something different. If as you're looking for something different, if what's appealing to you is something very different. Yes, I was learning a ton, but I don't really care that much about the stuff that I was learning. That's when you should be thinking about the broadening. And it's not, I don't believe, yes, you can say if you're in your 20s, you should be doing this, and in your 30s, maybe like that, and maybe in your 40s and 50s. I do agree that at some point people do define you by what you've been doing. And if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you should have found some specialty enough that you're able to get the better and bigger positions because you've been doing it. You're able to start a better company because you've been doing that particular thing for longer. So that's generally true. But I do think it's, expand and contract over time. If you're enjoying what you're doing, but you now need more experience, you want more experience from a broader thing, stay close to what you're doing. If it's like, I learned a lot, but it's painful, go someplace else. So thank you.
So Jack, the last question, because I want to play squash with you.
Sure.
So this podcast is also about, I know, right? Enoch and I are devout Christian and open about our faith, and we believe that we need ethics today more than anything because everyone's obsessed with AI and people are addicted to screens, and we just need empathy and patience and joy and love. What are your 2 cents there? I mean, are you comfortable sharing about your heritage or background or spiritual background?
Well,
do you have something? Do you think we need ethics?
That's great. No, thank you. I'm Jewish, raised Jewish, and I am a spiritual person. I agree completely, I think, both with the need for ethics and the need to have a mission in what you're doing. And so I would say that I believe strongly, in fact, I don't call my course an ethics course, but what I'm really doing is trying to help students develop their own ethical framework, is really what it's about, that they bring with them to their companies. And then a mission, it doesn't have to be a mission to change the world, but if you're going to start a company, it should be about more than just fame or money or power. So.
Well, thank you, Jackie. God bless you. Much love. Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.